Hello, dear friends. Today is August 14, 2025, and this is our traditional battlefield map review. For today, the main developments are still taking place in the Pokovsk direction, with some changes on the South Donetsk axis as well. Changes are also occurring in the Constantinovka and Kran Leman sectors, which we will discuss and examine in this video. And before we begin, as always, I sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription greatly helps its development. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Now let's start our review with the Kherson direction. Kherson direction today, 3 Russian airstrikes were recorded. 1 near Tokarevka, 1 near Nikolskaya, and 1 in the Antonovka area. The Ukrainian side reports repelling 2 Russian attacks near Antonovka and another 2 near Pridneprovskoye. In other respects, the front line here remains unchanged. Along the entire line of contact, both sides are actively using FPV drones and artillery. Oricov direction, heavy fighting continues near Malaya Tokmachka. Ukrainian forces are also counterattacking and striking Russian positions near Belogoria and Novopokrovka. Positional battles remain ongoing toward Novoandreevka and Novodanilovka. As for Stepnogorsk, today we received reports that Ukrainian troops managed to push Russian forces out of one of the districts. All territory marked in yellow has come under Ukrainian control. Earlier there were claims that Russian forces were trying to clear this area, but in reality Ukrainian forces have managed to drive them back here. Russian troops also failed to gain a foothold on the southern outskirts of Stepnogorsk, so the map here today favors the Ukrainian army. In Plavny, positional fighting continues. Russian forces are not storming the settlement at the moment. It is likely in the grey zone, as large numbers of FPV drone crews from both sides are operating there. Kran Leman direction. There is a small change in favor of the Russian army. Near Malinovka, Russian forces cleared a pocket between Malinovka and Novozlatopol. All territory marked in red has come under Russian control. They are also attacking Ukrainian positions near Poltavka and Olgovskoye, using FPV drones and artillery. No assault actions have been recorded today. Earlier, there was information that Russian forces would storm these settlements, advancing on Poltavka from Malinovka. But this was not confirmed, so the front line toward Poltavka and Olgovskoye remains unchanged. Near Temirovka, Russian forces came under Ukrainian attacks. 3 assaults from the north were repelled. Meanwhile, Russian troops are attacking near Kamyshevaha and Alexandrogorad, and are expanding their control near Malievka. The red-marked area here has come under Russian control with an advance of up to 500 meters towards Seshnevo. Regarding Andreevka-Klevtsovo, earlier reports claimed Russian forces had secured this settlement and that storming operations could begin soon, but no confirmation has been received. It may have been sabotage reconnaissance groups or premature reports. Once we get video confirmation, the map will be updated. Pokrovsk direction. In Udaknoye, Russian forces have cleared the southern part of the settlement, which is divided by the railway, bringing it entirely under Russian control. Video footage from this area shows Russian troops under Ukrainian FPV drone attack, confirming the location of their forward positions. The red-marked territory has now fully come under Russian control, with an advance of up to 1 kilometers. Positional fighting continues near Kotlino. As mentioned earlier, if Ukrainian forces lose Udaknoye and Kotlino, Russian forces will advance towards Sergeyevka to cut the supply road to Pokrovsk, as the northern supply road is effectively severed. North of Pokrovsk in Rodinskoye, new video footage confirms Russian forward positions there, showing they have secured the settlement. Earlier fighting took place over industrial sites east of Rodinskoye, but now all territory marked in red is under Russian control, with an advance of up to 2.5 km. Russian forces have also entered Kran Leman. While earlier reports mentioned an advance toward the settlement, there is still no video evidence, though pro-Russian sources claim success. Further successes are reported north of Suvarovo in Nikanorovka. The Ukrainian side has admitted losing Nikanorovka, and the Russian Defense Ministry has officially stated it is under full Russian control. From Suketskoye, video footage confirms Russian presence, so we can conclude the settlement is fully under Russian control. Regarding the reported Russian breakthrough towards Zolotoy Kolodez, The Ukrainian side claims that Russian assault troops there were destroyed and all lost territory was retaken. Russian sources, however, claim success. No video evidence from either side has been provided, so all grey-marked territory remains contested. Poltavka area. Earlier reports mentioned Russian advances between Poltavka and Rusin Yar, clearing the pocket in between. New footage north of Poltavka confirms Russian forward positions, with all red-marked territory fully under Russian control. The advance to the north is up to 1 kilometer. Constantinovka direction. Russian forces are clearing the previously formed pocket in the Shcherbinovka area and west of Novospaskoye, with all red-marked territory now fully under Russian control. Heavy fighting continues near Klebanbek, Katerinovka, and Plesheyevka. Several reports have claimed Klebanbek has been taken by Russian forces, but there is still no video confirmation. Near Alexandro-Shultino and Belaya Gora, Russian forces have failed to advance. Ukrainian troops counterattack daily, striking Russian positions with FPV drones. This suggests the front line here has stalled. The same situation is unfolding in the Chasov Yar sector. Positional fighting continues near Nikolaevka, Stupochki, and Predtechino without any changes to the map. There is also information that Russian troops have already entered the outskirts of Maiskoye, located north of Chasov Yar. However, no video confirmation has yet been provided. It is possible that in the next 2 to 3 days we will receive footage from there, and the map will be updated accordingly. Siversk direction. Here, positional battles are taking place along almost the entire line of contact. Ukrainian armed forces, UAF positions, were attacked near Vyemka, Siversk, and Serebryanka. In turn, Ukrainian troops attacked Russian positions near Verkhnekamenskoye and Grigorovka. The Serebryansky forest is also being cleared, specifically the pocket between Serebryanka and the forest. The entire area is being combed through, but as of today, there are no major changes to the map. Krasny Lyman direction. There are significant changes near the settlement of Zarekhnoye. As you know, earlier footage confirmed Russian forces entering Zarekhnoye and securing positions there. Today, another video appeared from this location, showing Russian forward positions. All red-marked territory has come under Russian control, with an advance of up to 1.5 km. Russian troops are now actively storming Zarekhnoye to fully capture it and potentially advance toward Lyman, as well as possibly outflank Kolodezi from the southern side. Fighting is also ongoing inside Kolodezi, but no major advances have been recorded today. Earlier, there were reports from several points in the Kolodezi area indicating that Russian troops had expanded their control, and it's possible that in the next 2 to 3 days we will get more video confirmation to update the map. In Chandrigolovo, intense fighting continues. Earlier, Russian forces entered the northern outskirts, and Ukrainian positions north of the settlement were attacked. The Ukrainian side now claims that all Russian troops who entered the settlement have been completely driven out. Given the conflicting reports from this area, we are awaiting additional footage to clarify the situation. Near Karpovka, Redkodub, and Grekovka, positional battles are ongoing without significant changes to the contact line. Kupiansk direction. Today, reports indicate that Zeleny Gai has come fully under Russian control. Heavy fighting is also taking place toward the Borisovka-Andreevka area. Once we receive video from there, the map will be updated. Moving to Kupiansk itself, positional fighting continues mainly near Moskovka and on the northern outskirts of the city without notable changes. Ukrainian forces, in turn, attacked Russian positions near Kondrashovka and Golubovka. Karkov, Veliky Burluk. Direction from the Ambarnoe area, 2 videos were received today showing Russian troops under Ukrainian attack. The front line here has shifted by up to 3 kilometers. Footage from 2 points confirms Russian control over this territory, but there has been no further expansion. The same applies to Volchansk and the Liptsy area. Positional fighting dominates, with both sides engaging mainly through FPV drones and artillery. No infantry assaults are currently taking place here. Sumy direction reports indicate that Ukrainian forces continue trying to enter Alexeyevka. Today, Russian positions in the settlement were attacked, but the UAF failed to develop success in this area. Heavy fighting is also taking place in Unikovka, where Russian positions came under FPV drone attacks. As a reminder, several hundred Ukrainian fighters have been trapped here for a long time, with supply routes fully cut, though it's possible their number has already decreased. Positional battles are also ongoing near Stepnoy and Novokonstantinovka. Pro-Russian sources report that Russian forces have expanded their control in these areas, while the Ukrainian side claims the opposite, that they have pushed Russian troops back. Once we receive verified video evidence from either side, the map will be updated. Tyot Kino area. As mentioned earlier, Ukrainian forces are preparing an offensive here. Most likely, it will indeed be aimed at Tyot Kino, possibly as soon as tomorrow, since a meeting between the US president and the Russian president is scheduled for that day. We can assume that Ukrainian forces may launch an assault here tomorrow. Now let me say a few words about political news. The EU and Ukraine now resemble a cunning bureaucrat who slips the boss the right document at the right moment. This is how political analysts describe the emergency video talks between European Union representatives and the US leadership on the eve of the Russia-US presidential summit in Alaska. What was Europe trying to get from Trump, and did it succeed? EU leaders held talks with Washington in an attempt to align the collective West's position on the Ukrainian crisis before the Alaska summit between the US and Russian presidents. The coalition of Ukraine's saviors was led by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. He invited the head of the Kiev regime, Volodymyr Zelensky, to consultations in Berlin. Merz organized a video conference with the participation of the leaders of France, the UK, Italy, Poland, Finland, as well as European Council President Antonio Costa, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte, and of course Zelensky. On the other side of the ocean, Donald Trump and US Vice President J.D. Vance listened in. Following the meeting, Ursula von der Leyen said the video conference strengthened the shared understanding of the situation in Ukraine. According to her, the participants agreed to maintain coordination. Friedrich Merz, for his part, added that Europeans made it clear that Ukraine should be at the negotiating table as soon as follow-up meetings take place. He said the starting point for talks should be a ceasefire. After that, Merz proposes that key elements of a peace deal be set out in a framework agreement. The main goal of the US president in the meeting with the Russian president in Alaska is to ask for a ceasefire, French President Emmanuel Macron also claimed. Ukraine is ready for negotiations, including on territorial issues, the German chancellor explained. However, he said, the starting point must be the so-called line of contact. Legal recognition of territories, however, is not up for discussion. In any case, Merz's remark on territories is highly telling. In effect, the Europeans agreed to hand over to Moscow the territories occupied by Russia. True, they won't legally recognize them as Russian, but for the sake of a truce, they are ready to stay silent, says German political analyst Alexander Ra. Volodymyr Zelensky also stated that the main point of the Trump-Putin talks should be a ceasefire. As for territorial issues, Zelensky called them very complicated. The head of the Kiev regime again referred to the Ukrainian constitution as preventing any territorial concessions, despite the fact that he has already violated it multiple times. Meanwhile, the US president stated that, if they, Ukraine, don't pay, I won't protect them. Moreover, according to him, such guarantees will not be given within the framework of NATO efforts. The video conference did not give Zelensky the results he was hoping for. He failed to sway Trump to his side at the last moment and failed to pull the Europeans deeper into the war, Ra says. Trump's ambiguous and uncertain reaction, according to analyst Jarakin, is linked to the fact that the US has already achieved its main goal in this conflict, breaking up the economic cooperation between Europe and Russia. He recalled that as far back as 2012, Vladimir Putin had proposed the idea of a single economic space from Lisbon to Vladivostok. This alarmed the US greatly. Russian resources combined with European industry could have created a super-powerful player that would threaten both the US and even China. So Washington did everything it could to drive a wedge between Russia and Europe. The Ukraine case helped them do it, Jarakin said. There is no peace between Russia and the EU, and none is in sight. But another powerful alliance emerged between Russia and China, which also threatens the US. What's to be done? That alliance must be broken too. How? By making sure Russia is too tied up in the West to focus on China. For that, in Trump's logic, Russia's forces need to be tied down on the Western Front. For example, by pushing for a truce lasting 49 or 99 years, ideas the US has already floated, but a truce always at risk of war, like in Korea. There's no active war, but huge defense resources are still spent, both by Russia and the EU, the expert explained. According to Jerikin, in the end, the US is pulling its tail out of the Ukrainian conflict. The freed-up resources will be redirected to confronting China. Trump's task regarding Ukraine is to fix a peace without peace. In this sense, there is some overlap in the EU's and the US's positions, namely the demand for an immediate ceasefire, but Europe and the Kiev regime want this much more urgently than Washington. The same demand was made before the Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul. Why? Because the front is moving westward, says military expert and political scientist Ivan Konovalov. In recent days, the situation for the Ukrainian armed forces has worsened even further. Russian forces are breaking through north of Pokovsk. The situation is bad for Ukrainian forces along the Kostyantynivka, Druzhkivka, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk arc. The Kiev regime desperately needs a truce to patch up holes in the front and bring up reserves, and they want to do it not militarily, they can't anymore, but diplomatically. The EU and Ukraine now resemble a cunning bureaucrat who slips the boss the right document at the right moment. Now, Donald, demand a truce from them. It's a crucial tactical element for them. According to experts, Russia's task is to get the US out of the Ukrainian conflict. Trump wants the same thing, which is why the presidents agreed to meet. The statements about punishing Russia if it refuses a truce, and about there being no second meeting, are just Trump's attempt to strengthen his negotiating position. He has no real tools left to pressure Russia. Biden had already used everything possible before him. There were no results. That means Moscow and Washington must reach an agreement, not only about Ukraine, but on a much broader agenda. Today, the chances of agreeing with Trump are much higher than with Biden, and Europe's last attempt to block this can be considered a failure. That's all for today's update. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.